Hi YouTube. While I am somewhat cognitive, I wanted to go over my Lyme disease story. Hopefully, I can do this really fast because I'm presenting this on Thursday to a person who represents our great state of Florida, which it should be awesome. Hopefully, um, this person feels the same way that I do about this illness and everything that I've got going on in regards to this illness and everything that's made me go through. So I'm going to try to like just not jump around and just kind of like go through from the bite to now, if that makes sense. Okay, so personally, the the bite happened when I was around age 5. And I was in North Florida, and my grandparents really didn't know what to do, so they just pulled it off with some tweezers. Meh, no big deal, right? So we moved on to just, like a couple of weeks after that. I think I got like a really bad fever, cold. The pediatrician that I saw chalked it up to it being just a really bad flu. And then a couple of months, maybe a couple of months later, I think it was a couple of months, I was diagnosed with ADD and ADHD at my school because I couldn't sit still. And I think that was partially because of the Lyme disease, but also because I was not in a class that I needed to be in. I needed to be in something with more challenge, whatever. But that's aside from the point. So then about four, let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So about 4 to 5 years later, that would put me at like 10 or 11 years old, and I was extremely exhausted. I could not get out of bed. I didn't want like, and this went on for a couple of years. Like I just was exhausted. They had to call the school. I had to call my dad to come pick me up, so that so I could have somewhere to sleep because I couldn't stay awake. And so there was that. I finally got past that portion of my life to the point where I never had all these symptoms at once, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. I got to age 17, which is a few years later. I was unable to like move joints very well. Like it was difficult. Like I was no longer able to do like gymnastics or to do like any to do anything really, honestly. I think it's getting dark. That's why it's kind of just like the lighting just went. But I shall make it come back. Hold on. Whatever. That's a light. It's light. Anywho, so yeah, so they they basically decided that because I was 17 and letting them know that I was in pain meant that I wanted drugs, like I was a drug seeker. And so I just shut up about it after that. Because my dad's a paramedic, he knows best, right? Whatever. I was just really, really, really quiet about it. So I was in pain up until currently. But around age 23, I started to get major brain fog to where it was difficult to remember anything. It was difficult to let people know what I wanted to say. It's still difficult sometimes for that, to let people know what I want to say. Like sometimes I'll say something and they'll be like, that's not what you meant to say, is it? And I'm like, probably not usually. Or usually I'm like, I feel like I'm being called out on whatever it is I'm supposed to say, or what I wanted to say does not come out right at all. So there's that. And let's see, this is 23, 24, 25. This kept going on for like a little while. And then by the time I was 26, I started searching for answers. I saw a bunch of different doctors who said a bunch of different things. And then finally, I got to see the doctor that I'm seeing now, my primary doctor, and he At first, he decided that I had fibromyalgia and that I had a few other things in narcolepsy as well. But he decided to do a chronic fatigue panel because no one in their 30s or almost in their 30s should be tired. I was like halfway through my 20s. No one should be this exhausted. And I was. And there was nothing like he could do about it. Like even put on stimulants or anything like that. Like nothing made me less sleepy. So, and when I took a sleep study, it turns out that I had sleep apnea. So then, after getting, on a CPAP for a little while, I still noticed the extreme exhaustion. So then I went back in for another sleep study, which would check for narcolepsy. And it turns that I did have narcolepsy. Let's see, we're about 6 minutes in, so I'm trying to make this under 10 if I can. Then I went and got the chronic fatigue panel done. It was a lot of blood, maybe like 20, almost 27 vials of blood for that particular blood screening. And then once those results came back, the Lyme disease test, the ELISA, and the Western blot happened to be on there, and they both lit up like a Christmas tree. So the ELISA was positive, and the Western blot was just boom, 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 positive, almost every band, except for like one or two or something like that. However, it was not enough for doctors here in Florida to say, "Hey, yeah, I'll be your doctor. I'll treat you." You know, like I don't even think I ever got like the addition or the first initial first 2 weeks of doxycycline, which is what normally happens to Lyme patients, is the 2 weeks of doxycycline. So we're gonna move on. Since I couldn't find a doctor here, I was recommended by my doctor that I see here to go to a doctor in Maryland, and this doctor had pretty extensive protocol. However, he was really expensive, and the waiting list was astronomically long. So I did a lot of research and asked around. I found another doctor who wasn't too far up the road in the opposite direction, actually, and he was a little bit less expensive, but also just as good of protocol. So I went and saw this doctor, and I saw him. It was probably close to 2 years, off and on, like every other month or so. So not really off and on, but every other month, to get everything checked. And so for the first year, I was on doxycycline, and I was on, let's see, I was on, oh gosh, I don't know. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's yellow paint. I was on yellow paint. Somebody out there will know in Limeland. And atovaquone. So I was on atovaquone, also off and on for probably about a year and a half, and then switching that between that and Coratam. And so those were my two main antimalarials for my Babesia, my Bartonella. And so it turns out I did not have Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which was great. Not that, having all the other stuff with it is great. Just one more thing to add to the pile is just not ever fun. So then I went on PICC line for about, oh gosh, about almost 8.5 months, and maybe a little over 8.5 months, closer to 9. And I had my PICC line IV Rocephin, and then I could also do my migraine meds through my PICC line because I was having migraines. That's a symptom that started when I was like 15 or 13, so I forgot to maybe add that in there. And then after that, I just started to have like all these symptoms just at once. It was so easy. Like you could just basically just grab all of my symptoms, squish them into a ball, and it would just scream Lyme disease. It would also scream other things that, this could be either mistaken for, or, maybe I actually had. So like Lyme disease, they also said it could have been something like Parkinson's. It could have been something similar to like to having, see, I'm starting to lose my train of thought again. So I wanted to try to do this really fast. Um, CVID, immunovariable, common variable immune syndrome, something like that. Anyway, so that's what I ended up with the diagnosis I have now. And I also have infections that have never gone away. So now I've got another, so the pickling came out. I got another one in on, I'll tell you the exact date, on the 16th of this month, of this past week, actually. So I got another pick line. Let's see. Hold on. I'm trying to make it where you can see it, but you can't see everything. The pick line. Anyway, so I'm doing that, and tomorrow's my first dressing change that I've had in a while, so I'm a little bit nervous because I haven't had one in a long time, and from what I remember, they're quite painful. And I think the reason for me wanting to do this video is just so that people can understand how long it can take to diagnose this, since this illness. Like, I'm 33 now. This all started when I was 5. So I just want everyone to know that this illness has basically ruined most of my childhood, most of my life. There have been some great moments out there. There have been some amazing people that I've met. There have been, this, that, and the other thing, people who have, just been wonderful that I did not expect to come into my life. There have also been, people that I've pushed out of my life because of this, because of it just being so overwhelming for them, and for me as well. So, you kind of have to judge that based on your ability to handle stress. And if you can't handle stress well, then you've got to let, everything go and start from the beginning and build it back up again. The other thing I was going to mention is that a lot of doctors, not all of them, but a lot of doctors in this state do not recognize Lyme disease in Florida. They do not recognize it as a thing that exists. It exists because of deer, and deer get the disease, and they get the disease from deer. They hop on deer, and then they hop off of deer, and then they wait for you. They can hang out on plants. They usually hang out in like wooded areas and stuff like that. However, they can be anywhere. They can be in your backyard, and your backyard could be near a wooded area for all I know. So, I mean, yes, tick repellent, yes, tuck your pants into your socks. I know it looks weird, but it'll save your life. Get your dogs on some kind of preventative medicine, because there are preventative medicine for dogs. However, there's not been anything, introduced for people yet. Not enough money for funding, not enough money for curing. And there's just right down the street from my old house where I used to live, there's a company that charges $3,000 per week to help get rid of this disease, supposedly. I don't know, I didn't do it, but I don't know anyone in their right mind who can afford $3,000 a week. And I know for a fact that there's not an insurance company out there in the world that's going to pay for it, because when you look at the protocol, it's basically vitamins, and you can get those at the grocery store. So says my insurance company. So, I mean, but I can't write myself prescriptions for antibiotics or anything like that. I can't write myself prescriptions for things that I need. I can't, I can't figure out how to make my vitamin D go up. I can't figure out how to make my stomach stop hurting. I can't figure out how to go through life without having to get so much blood work drawn, or having so many issues just in general, like immunodeficiency issues. also like infectious disease issues, like not being able to get rid of a UTI for going on like 8.5 months or so now. Um, and that it's not right. And thankfully, I've been super blessed with the fact that my insurance, and I'm not saying all insurances are like this, but my insurance has been amazing. But it's going to stop being amazing the minute that they write the words, for Lyme disease down next to anything. So, like, say for instance, I get you know, something for doxycycline or whatever, or, like get a prescription for doxycycline, and they deliver it to my house, and next to it's written for Lyme disease. They're not going to deliver that to my house. They're not going to pay for it. The insurance is going to say, meh, nope, just kidding. You can't have it. And that's part of the reason that a lot of the doctors here are afraid to treat for Lyme disease, because Lyme disease is what gets a lot of doctors in trouble with their licenses. And they have to go to the CDC and the licensing board and say, hey, yeah, she was sick, and they have to defend every single one of their patients. And it's not the same for every kind of doctor. Like, there are doctors out there, like, for instance, just an example, acne, doctors who treat acne, or like dermatologists, can give people who have acne, gratuitous amounts of antibiotics if they want to, because sometimes that can help. However, when it comes to something else like Lyme disease, they're like, well, if it's past 30 days and you've been on doxycycline for 2 weeks and you're done after that point, then that means that you don't have it. It's something else. It's got to be something else. So, anyway, this little tiny presentation, I just really hope that what I want you to get out of it is that it can happen to anyone, anywhere, not just Florida. It's not just in the Northeast. That's a huge myth. And check for ticks, because the longer they're on, the more chance you have of getting it. And the timeline now is like about like 24 hours. Like, if you've got a tick on you, it's been on you for 24 hours, you might as well go get those 2 weeks of doxycycline anyway, because you're going to get sick and then progressively get sicker and sicker and sicker until you're either A, dead because they didn't catch it in time, or B, they caught it, but you're still sick forever. Like me. Anyway, enjoyed talking with you. I hope you have a lovely day. I know it's been a while since I posted, but I did want to post this because I will be showing this to some important people in Florida, and I'll talk more about that later once it goes, once I talk to them and everything. But anywho, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a magical day. Take care.